All right, good afternoon, everyone. It's 1:30. Welcome to the July 12th, 2023 meeting of the Finance Executive Committee. I'm Alex Wan, I chair the committee. I'm joined by my colleagues to my right, Councilmember Howard Shook, who's vice chair, and to my left, Councilmember Jason Winston. I know that Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet is in the building, and we'll need to wait for her to have quorum to do the official business, but we'll take care of that as soon as she walks in. All that said, we're going to go ahead and start with the agenda for the parts that don't require a vote, and then we'll catch up as soon as we do have quorum. So we'll need to skip adoption of the agenda and approval of the minutes. And with that, we're actually going to move quickly into public comment. And so nobody signed up for public comment. Okay, so we do not have any public comment today. That means we'll quickly now move into presentations, reports, and updates. So with that, we'll go ahead and start with the City Auditor's Office quarterly update. I'll invite Ms. Noble to come up to the podium. While she's doing that, we'll get the presentation up on the screen. And Ms. Noble, you have the floor. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. I'm Amanda Noble, City Auditor. Let me get this situated. Presenting our quarterly report for the final quarter of 2020, fiscal year 2023. See if I can work this. Here we go. We released 9 audit reports in fiscal year 2023, falling short of our goal of 12. We have 9 audit reports in progress that I'll get to in coming slides. We are updating our risk assessment, which I will also get to in a coming slide, which will help the audit committee finalize our audit plan for fiscal year 2024. We should be completing the assessment this summer and releasing the plan this fall. We closed 105 open audit recommendations in fiscal year 2023. Our goal was to close 100. 91% of the closed recommendations were implemented, which was higher than usual. The link there on the slide will take you to our Mission Mark dashboard that will show you all the recommendations. Whoops. Okay. Please be aware that it will take a moment to load, especially if you're on Wi-Fi. We're making progress closing old recommendations, but we still have about 150 open recommendations that are more than 6 months past their expected implementation date. The Mayor's Office of Innovation and Performance are helping us to follow up on these. A lot of them were agreed to under former leadership and may have fallen through the cracks or may have been mooted. The risk could have been implemented in a different way or addressed in a different way but not reported. So I expect the implementation rate to go down once we close some of these older recommendations. We do have a goal for fiscal year 2024 to develop a prioritization for audit recommendations, like a high, medium, or low to help. I think we have 209 open recommendations still because we close them, but we make more. So it's always a sort of a juggling act. And it'll be easier if we have, say, like 30 high risk or higher priority to pay attention to those. I know the audit committee is interested in that, and some council members have asked for that too. So hopefully we'll get that done in the current fiscal year. The continuous audit section of the slide shows what we've been monitoring. Most of our work over the past 2 years has been data cleanup on the segregation of duties as the advanced access controls. So the way continuous audit is supposed to work is the risk management controls run weekly, and if something is flagged, the system notifies assigned departmental investigators who are then responsible for assessing whether the result should be accepted, remediated, or resolved, and then recording the reasons for accepting the planned step to remediate or how the problem was resolved. Then we would review a random sample and check to see, whether the department said what they would do or whether the step was reasonable for remediation, and then periodically review whether previously accepted results or previously accepted, risks were still acceptable. We couldn't initially do that because the initial results were too overwhelming for departmental investigators to handle. We have a dedicated person assigned. So our auditor worked with departments to test what we could actually do with different permissions in Oracle. And we have filtered out false positives and worked with departments to get some user permissions revoked. We're done with the procurement conflicts, and we should be finished this week with the accounts payable conflicts. We started with about 23,000 conflicts in these two areas alone. So now that we've completed cleanup on the procure to pay cycle, our goal is to implement a dashboard so then we can report the new conflicts or also new red flags on transactional controls and then how they've been addressed. And then we still have data cleanup to finish in the other business areas, which we will then add to the dashboard. So that's going forward for continuous audit for FY24. These are the audits we completed in FY23. We haven't presented business licenses report to you yet. Our communication was stranded in Elms. We distributed the report a couple weeks ago. We got the communication straightened out, and you'll hear the report after recess. These are the audit reports currently in process. We've talked about them before, and the descriptions of the scopes are on our website, so unless there are any questions, I won't go over them. This slide provides an overview of how we're updating our annual risk assessment and audit selection process to try to incorporate more input from the administration and to incorporate a more forward-looking assessment rather than relying on mostly lagging indicators. So we defined an audit universe based on the organizational structure and chart of accounts, and then added top vendors and critical applications. Then we developed a set of 21 high-level citywide risks grouped in 4 areas: people, processes, legal and compliance, and external events. And we're planning a workshop with members of the executive team to gather their perceptions on likelihood and impact of the risks given their knowledge of the city's control environment. Once they rank the risks, the Mayor's Office of Innovation and Performance will help us map the risks to the audit universe. And then the audit committee can use the results to help select topics for the remainder of fiscal year 24. And we'll post the results to our website. This slide shows our organizational chart. We are currently fully staffed. And that's it. Any questions?
All right, questions. And before we continue, we've been joined by Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet. Let's finish this presentation, and I'll go back and take care of the business items at the beginning of the agenda. Questions for Ms. Noble. I do have a question on the org chart, the one position that is kind of lighter shade. What's the significance of that?
That is a part-time person. That's our manager for
PT.
continuous audit.
He means part-time. The other thing I was going to mention, which you proactively discussed, was the triaging of the outstanding findings that haven't been implemented. Again, the hierarchy will help us, help you, and help the departments focus on those that are critical and should have been done and have kind of the biggest impact on your findings. So I'm glad to hear that hopefully is coming in the next fiscal year.
Yeah, we're working with our vendor for the Mission Mark software. We will have the capability of adding a field to do that. I don't actually have any ideas right now for methodology how to do that, so if anyone has suggestions, I welcome the input.
Okay. Other questions for the city auditor? All right, thank you, Ms. Noble. We appreciate it. All right, let's go back and take care of the adoption of the agenda. Can I get a motion, please? Motion from Shook, seconded by Winston. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
4 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. The agenda is adopted. Next is the approval of the minutes. I'll entertain a motion as well. Motion, I'll make the motion, seconded by Shook. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
4 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. The minutes are approved. All right, let's move on to our second presentation, Invest Atlanta Financial Update. I'll invite President and CEO, Dr. Eloisa Clementich, to come to the podium.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Eloisa Clementich, proud president and CEO at Invest Atlanta. So for this update, there are basically 4 areas I'm going to quickly cover: tax allocation districts, HOB, small business, and economic development. So our tax allocation district, I'll go over specific projects and activity that we had this year, but I do want to note that I have asked Nino, our CFO, to be here as well. At the end, in the appendix, are specifics about any other TAD you may have we can address. This provides an overview of the activity of 2023. What you see, there are 5 projects in 3 different TADs. Our investment has been $5 million, and what's exciting and I even think important about the TAD is that it's been able to leverage, spur, and activate $49 million, and that's what we want to continue to see in our city. This shows exactly where are the 6, and I know it's kind of small, so I'm going to detail them for you. So what you will see in the top pictures, so the picture is worth 1,000 words, is here is at 597 Auburn Avenue. It's Remerge. This is a nonprofit that is going to really focus on helping community with different activities. One of those is a women's micro entrepreneur coaching program. And this specifically, what's exciting is not only is going to provide the programming for women to be able to create and start their business, so an incubator, but it also is going to provide daycare. We know that's a big issue for some of our women entrepreneurs, so they're doing everything they can to ensure that women are successful here in our city. At the bottom images, you'll see that this is at Westview. There are 60 units of affordable multifamily development. The development's located in Southwest Atlanta in the Hollowell MLK TAD. This project used a pay-as-you-go TAD incentive, which basically means, and rather than an upfront grant, they will receive partial reimbursement of their annual property taxes. The project will have 54 units at between 50 and 60% area median income and 6 market rate units. At the top of this slide, you see the Macaulay Station Senior. This is a 96-unit development across the street from King Memorial MARTA Station, adjacent to Phase 1, which is a 180-unit affordable housing complex, currently under construction. The Eastside TAD funding was awarded for both projects in partnership with St. Joseph's Health System. At the bottom section of this slide is the Grove Park neighborhood was awarded $250,000 from the Perry Bolton TAD for a pre-development loan. The funding will allow the developer to really flush out the site plan programming with the community. It is envisioned to be a mixed-use development with about 30 units, over 9,000 square feet of community-oriented commercial space. And on this slide, you'll see this is a project in the Perry Bolton TAD, and we're excited about this project along Donnelly Hollowell. It is a redevelopment of decades vacant commercial building. It's approximately 10,000 square feet, and it's going to be changed into a medical office building. The primary tenant is Humana, which will operate a full-service medical facility for seniors. So we're very excited about what this will bring. Now, I will mention that they originally received a $500,000 TAD grant in October of 2021. Due to unforeseen infrastructure, which was required by the Georgia Department of Transportation, and significant structural work in the area, an additional $250,000 will be awarded from the TAD. But we think that this is very exciting. There is no other close senior health facility around. I'm now going to turn it, Here is the housing opportunity bond slide. This is a lot of, and this is all public and you'll be able to pull it up. Just know that we have a very active pipeline when it comes to housing opportunity bond. We are working with a sense of urgency. We are hearing from developers that costs are escalating anywhere from 2 to 3% a month. So we're doing all we can to close these affordable housing deals just as quickly as possible. And to close off, we're going to go very quickly along our technical assistance and small business, and I'll ask Noah and Maya to join me.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Mr. Chair, committee members. We'll talk briefly about ATL and Business and their technical assistance providers. Just as a reminder, this is an online tool that we provide to small businesses that connects them with no-cost business coaching in a number of different areas that are critical for businesses to continue to grow into the city. So areas like finance, business planning, marketing, HR, legal, and web development. And since the beginning of this program in March of last year, we have more than 230 small businesses served. That's 3,100 hours of technical support recorded over those 2,390 sessions. And what's really critical for us, as you can see on the bottom right, is the access that we have in terms of 80% minority-owned businesses, 72% Black-owned businesses, and 65% women-owned businesses. We always like to highlight one of the success stories as well, just so you can get a sense for who some of these small businesses are and the critical work that these technical assistance providers are providing them. So you can see here about Educators Now. I'll then move into a brief update on economic development, focusing on small business loans, and I'll ask my colleague Maya Jackson to talk about the opportunity zones. So small business lending is a core component of the economic development team that we have at Invest Atlanta. And year to date, we've closed 24 small business loans. So that's a little bit more than $2 million in lending to these companies that assist with project costs that are a little bit over $6 million. On the right side of the screen, I wanted to highlight the Wells Fargo Open for Business programs. That's the Atlanta Loan Recovery Program, as well as the Commercial Down Payment Assistance Program. So you'll see there 1 loan in the commercial down payment side, and then 26 loans since program inception last year. What I'm really excited about is that we're halfway through the year. And if you look at the bottom, you'll see that there's an additional 8 loans that have been approved but haven't closed yet. And in fact, we actually just had our credit review committee where we had the highest number of small business loans go before that committee. We had 11. That's double the amount that we typically get in a month. So the pipeline to close is actually closer to 20. And then on top of that, there's another 22 loans. So we're very excited about the direction of the small business lending program. Fingers crossed, we'll be able to have the highest amount of small businesses that receive loans from Invest Atlanta. We're on track for that today. With that, I'll hand it over to Maya Jackson to talk to you a little bit about opportunity zones.
So I'm just going to briefly touch on our State Opportunity Zone tax credit. This is run by DCA, and Invest Atlanta is the manager. This tax credit is available to all businesses who are in these red designations that you see on the screen. So as long as the business has 2 or more employees and they offer health benefits, they are eligible for the tax credit, and the actual incentive is $3,500 per employee for up to 5 years, so there is no maximum. If you have 1,000 employees, you're eligible for that tax credit still. So some recent things we've seen with our Opportunity Zone tax credit this year, we've been able to support 13 businesses with over 330 jobs retained and over $5 million in tax savings for each of these companies. So some key people we've seen lately is King of Pops, Sleddy Beacon, and Good Management Group.
And I would open it up to any questions your council may have.
All right, questions for Invest Atlanta? Councilmember Winston.
Thank you, Dr. Clemente and your team for being here today. Quick question, I think probably for Noah to answer. I wanted to talk about the small business loan program and the funding. What's the average close time for the loans?
So we set a goal for 30-day closing. To get to closing, though, you have to pass the credit review committee. So once you've submitted your application, online via the Neighborly portal. It then goes into a queue that our team works with to get the credit memo prepared, that then gets presented on a monthly basis to that credit review committee. And then once approved, we then issue the commitment letters, and then it's, in that letter, it's 30 days to close.
Okay, and then with the commercial down payment assistance program, obviously we've only had one so far. What's the minimum, I guess, dollar amount for commercial projects to be able to participate in this program?
Oh, there is no minimum. It's up to 200,000 that they can receive, so
Okay.
no minimum.
Okay, up to 200,000.
And this is that program in particular is the newest one. We launched it at the end of last year. We recognized that the pipeline wasn't as strong as we had wanted it to be. So we've made a couple of changes to the program here in the last month with Wells Fargo to be able to, speed up and put more companies into the pipeline. So we have 2 that are in the pipeline we feel very strongly about.
And then lastly, with the state opportunity zones, it seems like, this program is kind of a low-hanging fruit for businesses to participate. Are the numbers of companies joining seeming small? What's the numbers of participants that you're seeing or interest you're seeing from businesses in this program?
Sure. So it lasts over 5 years, so a lot of companies may have signed up 5 years ago, and the overall designation is only for 10 years. So we've been ramping up our outreach and reaching out to literally every single business with a business license in this designation. But recently, this is the highest number I've seen in the past couple of years. So this is about average that 13.
Okay.
Councilman, if I can just add, Maya's being pretty humble. She's actually brought in an intern, and that intern is reaching out to every business proactively, because we recognize business didn't know they were in the opportunity zone. So every business is getting either a letter and or a personal call like, hey, do you know you're in the opportunity zone? You don't need to do anything. Just send me this and you get this amount. Pretty much when we tell them, they're sending us the paperwork.
Okay. Great. That was basically going to be my follow-up question is what are we doing for outreach to reach some of these businesses? And I'm sure council members, my colleagues would love to be able to help with that outreach as well, being proactive and reaching out to businesses that are in these zones. So thank you all today. Thank you.
Other questions? Councilmember Overstreet.
Yeah, right quickly. So thank you for the presentation. What are we doing to figure out if the city of Atlanta needs any more TADs? Are we making sure that we are blanketing the city in the proper way? Because there are a couple areas that I can think of just off the top of my head that could use a TAD. Like, what is the temperature for actually closing TADs and opening others where development is needed?
Yes. Well, I want to thank this council. We were able to close our first TAD, and we were able to actually close out, send the funds back to all of the jurisdictions. We have actively taken our TADs, and we do an assessment every 3 years to ensure that those, to your question of which ones need to close and when, that provides us that question. To where future TADs are needed, that's something that we're continually looking at, just depending on economic metrics, statistics. But love to get some of your input and thought on where you think some of those may be.
Okay, because that's where I am right now.
All right, I'll set up some time.
And, in full transparency, I was able to close the Princeton Lakes TAD just because I've already identified the next space.
I'll reach out to your office.
Not only that, but also to be a role model for those that have already spurred development in a way that those TADs should. And I would like for us all to look throughout our districts to figure out where the next one can be. So I just want to make sure that we aren't just stuck on where we are. I don't want to be stuck because we have a lot of work to do.
Agreed.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Councilmember Shook.
Aren't we significantly over the percentage that we're allowed to have in TADs? Way beyond the 10% cap?
Right. The only way we could probably create a new TAD today would be close down and I'm looking at CFO, the Beltline and annexation. Well, and Nino, go ahead.
Yeah, so right now we're at 17%, so we would have to close some large TADs in order to be under that 10% where we can open up a new TAD. So it doesn't look like it's going to happen
anytime soon. Thank you.
So
Yes. go
follow
ahead.
up. Understanding that, we know that we're 7% over or so. That's another reason why I think we need to do forecasting and figure out plans instead of just accepting where we are. I think that we need to look forward because there's so many other areas that actually need development, and the TADs have proven to be very successful in that. So I don't think we should look at it as, oh, well, we're over and it's going to be a while. I think we need to have a better plan than that. All right.
I had two questions. Number one, when you went to the housing opportunity bond pipeline, you flashed a chart up there that isn't in our slide deck, but I did hear a couple of council members wanting copies of that, the one there's a table or something.
Yes, it's in the ones that did we pass them out?
Oh, there we go. Okay, perfect. That's question number one. It's been answered. The second one has to do with the TAD projects that were approved and the leverage capabilities. I guess if you look at that chart, there's a kind of a broad range in terms of the dollars, the TAD funding versus what was ultimately leveraged. Is there any sort of secret sauce? Is something that you find a dollar, any type of project or even investment category that we seem to be able to leverage more than others? And is that in and of itself another strategy in terms of TAD funded projects?
I know when they underwrite and look at the different TADs, yes, they are going to consider all of those factors. We see a higher leverage usually with our bigger projects in terms of affordable housing or housing projects.
Yeah.
But what I highlighted, many of those were much smaller projects, very important in terms, it's hard to put in the numbers the fact that now seniors will be able to access a medical facility. So some of these are tangible, very clear in numbers, and some have community impact that may not necessarily see the leverage in a number, but we know that the impact is there for the community. So it's a little bit of both. But to your direct question, housing projects will give us the highest leverage.
Yeah, I mean, because if you look at that number too, I mean, you look at the second one, the Bolton Road infrastructure, that in and of itself isn't going to have a leverage dollar, but it is going to leverage other projects along that
That's right.
corridor. So that's a fair thing. But
If you'd like, I can also run the in-plan analysis. That will give you a better sense of direct, indirect, and induced if you're interested.
That's okay. I mean, I know that y'all are looking at it very closely. It is just an interesting data point because as there are going to be TADs that start winding down in terms of the dollars available for funding. And so long as we've got that discipline and that rigor to say, okay, I can choose between projects A, B, and C, but I know if I do a project B, I'm going to get a quick leverage
Right.
quicker than the other.
And now to tell you, in this economic climate, we're also measuring timing.
Yeah.
Because access to financial capital stacks, timing, pressures, financing is playing a big role. Projects we had thought would close aren't being able to close.
Yeah. Other questions? Well, thank you for the report.
welcome. Thank you.
Appreciate the activity as well, especially in our current climate and environment. All right, with that, I did want to stop for a second. I understand this seems to be bring your intern to work today, a work day. I believe that the law department has an intern that is participating or attending our meeting. Is that correct? Yes. So I wanted to acknowledge that you're in the room with us, and hopefully we will at least give you a good show today. And then it looks like in the back, is this another set of interns or another group that's visiting? Is there someone who would like to come up to the podium just to introduce yourselves and tell us who you are? I just want to acknowledge.
They trump me. I will speak for the Department of Procurement.
Okay.
We have 6 beautiful interns learning a lot of things, able to shadow and learn and hopefully work for you guys very, very soon.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Well, welcome. Well, welcome to both groups of interns. That is a perfect segue into our final presentation, which will be from the Department of Procurement. So, Jaydeep, I'll invite you to come up to the podium, and you have the floor.
Respected Chair, respected council members, Jaydeep Majumdar, Department of Procurement, Chief Procurement Officer for City of Atlanta. We'll talk about the updates for Department of Procurement. More importantly, rather than comparing what we had before versus what we are now, we're going to talk about the future state, where we are going to move towards. We have created a baseline with all the improvements that we have made, and how we are going to improve on the baseline will be all the things that we have on our slides. I always like to start our presentations with our vision statement and our goal. This reminds us of who we are, what we do, and what we deliver for City of Atlanta. Clearly, the vision statement is excellence and value creation through partnership, collaboration, and innovation. And the goal there is to make sure we create a fair, open, and competitive space and break down barriers of doing business with City of Atlanta. We want to make sure our contracting process is fair, transparent, open, and inclusive. We also want to make sure that we promote small business, woman-owned businesses within City of Atlanta and across our supply base. And last but not least is to make sure we conduct business in a very ethical way and hold ourselves, each other, responsible for ethical standards. So we will act on opportunities, we'll be bold in delivering results, we'll be committed in making sure things get done, decisive and ethically engaged. Moving on to the next slide, it's just agenda. Basically, we'll talk about the transformation map, a brief recap of where we ended fiscal year 23, the enhancements that we have made, and forward-looking enhancements that are scheduled for the next 3 months, 6 months, and 9 months. On the transformation map, I have given a lot of these updates on mapping 3 C's to the 3 P's, which is capabilities, competencies, and capacity, how we map to people, process, product. I think we have gone through that journey over a period of time. It was broken down in 4 tranches, 3 months each. The first one was about process. The second one was about people. The third one was about the product and technology, and the fourth one was about continuous improvement. And continuous improvement doesn't stop here. We will continuously evolve to get to the next level. Having said that, on the process piece, we implemented a good process, a robust process, sourcing process, which is repeatable and reproducible. On the people piece, we have moved into category management model. We have gone through a transformation. We have created a center of excellence team that is then powering the category management model. And on the product side, you will see that all the enhancements that we have made going forward, and the enhancements that are supposed to be implemented down the road. On the transformation piece, we talk about the change management. I think some of the key things out here is, and we just highlighted some of the key things. A is 100% adoption of Oracle. In September, we made sure that 100% data, 100% projects are in Oracle. All sourcing events are now posted online. In other words, in the spirit of being fair, transparent, open, and inclusive, we have made sure that we are transparent in how we conduct our business. We have also launched atlsuppliers.com. That is a hub spot for all the suppliers to transact business with us. We didn't have one central place for suppliers to get all the information about doing business with City of Atlanta. Now every supplier has that. It even has real-time project details. We also made sure that we implemented some control measures in place. We have now different approval levels. We made sure that we can stop the leakages that could possibly happen, and we made sure that going forward, we are able to control all our spend in a much better way. We also made sure that we connect, build, and foster relationships with the suppliers. So what we did was we created supply newsletters for them. We made sure we have industry days for them. We made sure we participate in industry events, supplier events. The idea there is to make sure we can connect, build, and foster relationship with the suppliers so that we can grow together as one team. The next slide talks about some quick facts. So we ended the year with 300 sourcing events and another 160 sourcing activity. So in other words, 317 is all the sourcing work that we did, and the other 160 plus are all amendments, renewals, task orders, and so on. So in a total of, let's say, we have around 500 sourcing activities that we have done in a year, which then translates to more than 40 sourcing activities in a month. The total spend for all the sourcing activities we did was $23.1 billion. That shows how much money and how much projects we pushed through. $21.1 billion. We onboarded 3,200 plus suppliers. We are 100% compliant with Oracle adoption. We have now reduced our cycle time from 350 plus days, the highest was 511 days, to less than 130 days. In fact, last month, we clocked in at 111 days, which is the lowest for City of Atlanta. And we want to maintain that momentum going forward. My goal to the team and my target to the team is 90 days. So we'll see if we can hit that 90 days, but we are right in the range right now, between 90 and 120 days. We have also processed 18,000 plus POs in the last 1 year. So you can imagine the amount of volume of work that goes through our department. And the value for those POs were $2.2 billion. So if you think about Department of Procurement, how much money we have pushed through, it's 23 plus 2, which is more than $25 billion, which also takes me to the next one. All these are good stories. The next one is more about staffing level. As we were going through the transformation, we were down to 53% in staffing level, and now we are slowly creeping back up to 75%. We are yet to get to 100%, but we are confident with all the team that we have out here that we will get to 100%. If you take a look at the workload that we dealt with and handled, we are operating at 81% efficiency factor. That's one of the highest in the industry. And we were able to do that because we were sliding, calibrating, and optimizing people based on where the workload is. We did 38 solicitation cancellation, which is way down from 111 that we had last year. And we only extended 7 contracts this year that were past expiration. So we're dealing with expired contract in a much proactive way. So in a nutshell, a very good story. The team should be proud of what they delivered. I am definitely proud of the team that delivered these strong numbers. I think at this point, rather than me going through the details, I want to give opportunity to our Deputy Chief Procurement Officers, Dana Greer and Kevin Floyd, to walk us through some of the numbers and have them interact with you on a one-on-one basis. So with that, Dana, can you walk them through the presentation?
Thank you, Chief Manju.
Hi, I'm Dana Greer. I am one of the Deputy Chief Procurement Officers supporting the Department of Procurement. And let me move to the next slide to give you some details about our solicitation activities. So this slide depicts the solicitation volumes by department. It's very clear to see that a dominant number of the solicitation events are for 4 user agencies, which are listed at the top. This accounts for over 60% of the procurement activity. On this slide, when we look at the solicitation totals, I want to share with you that at the beginning of the fiscal year, we were bringing in a lot of the project activities from former fiscal years, which are part of the reasons for the spikes in the solicitation timeframes. Since we've moved into our transformation, you're going to see some of the increases of volume that we were able to achieve with the number of events that we were managing from December through current period of time. So over 60% of our solicitation activities occurred after the transformation. We've increased the volume of projects that we were able to achieve. And again, that's not just because of the transformation, but because of the dedication of our team. So I'd like our team just to raise their hand. They're the ones who are performing the work. On the slide to the right, where you have your pie chart, it's really showing the health of our organization and the fact that a dominant number of our activities are due to some level of competition, either formally or with some level of quotes. So a very small portion of our activities have an informal or a single source. Most of them are from an RFP. Even our special procurements, which are indicated in red, require at least 3 quotes and some significant justification. And then the IFBs, which we are using as a request for quote, results in the lowest price vendor being selected. As far as solicitation cycle times, again, we're looking at the opportunities where we've been able to reduce our cycle times, and as Chief Manjumdar mentioned, we're consistently pushing to lower that number. The number was spiked, again, because of the number of projects that we brought in from the former fiscal year, and it is decreasing, and we're continuing to manage and to find efficiencies. And lastly, we are managing and monitoring the rationale and reasons for cancellations. Although we've brought this number down significantly, I believe the number from the last fiscal year was as high as over 100. So out of the 38 solicitations, a portion of them are because there were no responses to the project. Others were because the user agency made that request. And a very few number were as a result of the Chief Procurement Officer making that recommendation. So if there aren't any other questions, I'll turn it back over to Chief Manjumdar. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. As you can clearly see, there were some good stories out here. The takeaways, the 3 takeaways are almost 20% of our user agencies constitute 80% of our work, A. B is we have reduced, we have made sure we are competitive in how we do business. 85% of our solicitation was competitive. The third piece is, if you take a look at this chart, this is a very compelling story. We only have 5 solicitation out of 38 where the suppliers chose not to bid. And that goes a long way, how we have connected, built, and fostered relationship with the suppliers so that they can bid. So in general, it's a very good story. And next slide, I want to talk about the enhancements that we're doing, the investment that we are making in our future, and our focus for this year, fiscal year 24. With that, Kevin, if you want to walk us through the next few slides, that'll be great.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Kevin Floyd, Deputy Chief Procurement Officer. Before I jump into this, I just want to quickly touch down on the hiring piece that Jeep mentioned. From where we were last year, we've increased staffing 74%, which I think is pretty unprecedented. And so I just want to thank the HR partners who work with us. I don't know if they love me or they hate me, but they still answer my emails, so God bless them. But I also want to thank you all, because I think the public comments and the affirmations that we've received from the administration, from council, goes a long way in making it an exciting culture that people want to be a part of. And so we certainly couldn't do it without our HR partners and without you all. Jumping in, so Jadeep talked about the social media. We've launched on all social media platforms, pushing out a tremendous amount of content. I think the suppliers are probably like, okay, City of Atlanta, we see you, because we're just giving them everything in the spirit of transparency. So at 2:15 every day, the bid tabulations for the projects closed. We post them all over socials. At 4:15 every day, every project that gets advertised gets posted on social media and blasted out to every supplier. They're included in our newsletters. We put out the little summary that you could see on the slide. Every 7 days, we put a 7-day look ahead of projects that are coming up to close, so that they make sure that they know what's coming up. If they want to participate, they've got a 7-day window on which to submit their bids. So just a tremendous amount of information that we're putting out to the suppliers in the spirit of just being open, transparent, and fair. On the enhancements and automations, this last quarter we've done quite a few. I'll hit on some of the big ones, is the DocuSign and combining, templating the contract signature piece, because that's always a pain point of why does it take so long for contracts to get signed. So we built some templates that have a tremendous amount of logic in them that will route it to the correct people concurrently versus sequentially, so people are signing it much faster, and it's got a 3-day SLA, so each signer in the process has 3 days to sign it, and then it gets escalated. So we will see a tremendous reduction in the cycle time on contracts, and then with that, we're also partnering with DocuSign on education. So how can we teach people to use DocuSign to its fullest capability to ensure that we're not doing anything on our end that makes it more convoluted or more complex, so we can keep getting those faster and faster times. I talked about the 7-day notification. We also implemented a bridge in Oracle linking the solicitation to the contract module, so it makes it much easier when you're working on a solicitation. The contract's ingrained with it. It goes out to the supplier up front, and then when we get to the back end, it just flows right through. So we're not taking it out of one system, putting it into a different module. Makes it a whole lot easier for the team. We're working with a number of suppliers that we have on contract to implement punch-out catalogs in Oracle. That gives us their discounted pricing to the city and also affords us automation on the back end, so really excited about that. We've doubled up on the number of trainings that we're offering both internally and externally, so every single week in the month, procurement is offering some type of training, either to folks within the city or to the supplier community. And then we've just now launched an app in Oracle for the whole city of all active contracts. So anybody in a department can look and say, here's the contracts the city has, and if they need that service, they can become a part of that contract versus us doing a new solicitation for a service that we already have a contract in place for. Supplier engagements. When I stood up here at our last presentation, I said my goal was to be present, visible, attend as many events as we could. Since January, we've gone to 15 events, and I can tell you all the ones that I'm a part of that I speak, the feedback is unanimous in that for the first time in history, procurement's accessible, visible, we can talk to you, we understand the process. There's a sense of encouragement and renewed hope that I can, as a small business, as an entrepreneur, do business with the City of Atlanta. We've broken down the barriers, so I'm really excited about that. We have events scheduled the rest of the year out, some here in Atlanta, some across the country that we'll be traveling to, telling our story and expanding our supply base. And we also trained 200 suppliers over the last year, so really investing a lot of time and attention into the supply base. And then lastly, I want to talk about the internship program. Really appreciate you acknowledging them. We're so excited to have 6 interns with us for the summer. I want to specifically call out Maya Wilson, who is a manager in the Center of Excellence with me, who has developed this program, which I think is just a fantastic opportunity. So the internship program is built on the interns envisioning their future, experiencing professional excellence, and evolving into the leaders of tomorrow. And so we've stood up a seminar series for them hosted by DOP Leadership that's just teaching them professional skills, soft skills, and then we've also given them 3 key projects that they're going to work on around data transformation, utilizing productivity tools, kind of baselining the state of the organization. So I'm really excited that by the time they finish with us, not only will they have done critical work in helping us move the department forward, but they're going to leave with a portfolio of truly beneficial work that they can take with them and hopefully choose to come and spend time with us in their careers. But with that, I will turn it back over to Jadid.
Thank you, Kevin. This is a great example. When I was talking about investing in future, we are investing in a future. We have a robust COE internship program where every intern goes through a rigorous training program. By the time they leave this internship program, they will be much more smarter, much more mature to handle the real world. So moving on to the next slide, I know Kevin mentioned about the interns envisioning, experiencing, and evolve. So our focus for next year is 3 E's: envision, experience, and evolve. And if you take a look at the logo, we want to envision digital procurement. We want to experience digital procurement. We want to evolve to digital procurement. And through digital procurement, we want to create operational excellence. So this logo that you see is our focus for fiscal year 24, which means that we are going to evolve ourselves to digital procurement and operational excellence. The reason why it's green is through digital procurement, through digitization, we want to also create a sustainable world. We are reducing the carbon print. We won't be using much paper. There won't be much paper to use. It will be all digitized. So along that front, what we are also doing is we are exploring chatbots by Microsoft. We are looking at Atlanta Suppliers 2.0, a relaunch of that. We are also looking at a master data policy to implement. We are doing digital business cards. And this is something that is important is we are also piloting regenerative AI. There are 51 procurement modules that fall under regenerative AI. And when I evaluated those, at least 4 of those are very critical that we can use, i.e. the negotiation piece, i.e. market intelligence piece, other contracts piece. I mean, that is a tool that we want to use. And Goldman Sachs has said that it will impact $7 trillion in the next few years, regenerative AI. We are also launching our supply focus group. Last time when I was standing here, I was talking about creating that supply focus group. The supply focus groups are going to be consultants to us, if you think about that way. We want to learn from them. We want to exchange information. We want to know the market analysis piece, what's out in the market, and the challenges piece. The first of the focus group will be launched on July 19th. So we are very excited to partner with suppliers who want to be our consultants, so-called consultants. Moving on to the next one, I love this slide, and I rave about this slide. This slide shows all the smiling faces of DOP employees, which means that I take pride in saying every person is proud of working for DOP. They are proud of transforming the organization. They are proud to take Department of Procurement to the next level. It will be called DOP 2.0. With that, I end today's presentation.
All right, questions? Yeah. Gosh, you're in cheerleading section here. No, kidding. Questions for the CPO? Councilmember Winston.
Thank you, Chair One. Thank you, Commissioner Majumdar, for your presentation and the hard work and dedication of your team. I was thinking about your core values, and I was thinking that one could be added to that, and that's adaptability. And I was thinking about the fact that we just had a presentation from Invest Atlanta in the room, and how all the work that you do is not linear. And I had a key example of that is a project that's in my district, which is the Grant Park Gateway Restaurant, where it was a canceled bid. We didn't have any solicitations, and your team has been adapting and working in collaboration with other departments, including Invest Atlanta, to find new ways to make this better. And I just wanted to know if you could highlight just some of the work around that, just so that, council members up here, and as well as the interns that you have and the viewing audience can understand how you all adapt to various situations that you encounter, such as these.
So to answer your question, you're absolutely right. We are very flexible, we're adapting, we are not being bound towards just this is the way we do business. We want to be a solution provider. In other words, we want to create solution for every problem that we are faced with. So the entire team is working on creating solutions. So when we have one door that closes, we are looking for opportunity to open another door and create a out-of-box solution. So if you take a look at the DOP logo, it's all about partnership, collaboration, and innovation. And that's where we are collaborating with other user agencies, with all the council members, with the community to collaborate and then innovate and come up with innovative solutions. All the things that we are doing, especially with the technology side, those are all innovative solutions that we're looking at. Chatbots, regenerative AIs, ATL Supplies 2.0, the revamp, interface, working with Microsoft. Those are different things that we're doing to be flexible, to create innovative solution for our community.
Thank you. And I just appreciate your hard work around that. In this specific example with Grant Park Gateway, you're working with Invest Atlanta to look at, various financial tools to help with this process. And I just appreciate the collaboration that's going along with that. So kudos to you and your team. I also want to highlight the level of communication that we receive. A lot of times that's primarily what we need, is to just be in the know of what's happening, especially as it pertains to the projects going on in our district. So again, thank you to you and your team.
Councilmember Collier Overstreet.
Thank you. Commissioner, thank you so much for your presentation and your whole team for all being part of FEC today. I do have a couple questions. On one of your slides, you spoke about increase and decrease, and I saw the 81% increase in the department efficiency factor. So, just a little more information. What is that based on? Like, is that an agency standard? Is that something that we are comparing to what year? I just want to know more about that page.
So it's basically a productivity factor for all the employees that are working here, basically. So if you take a look at 81% out of 8 hours, 81% is at least 6 hours employees are working and producing. So typically, world-class companies work between 64 and 72%. But because we are able to slide, calibrate, and optimize our teams, depending on the workload, we were able to get to 81% efficiency factor. Now, is that sustainable year after year after year? The answer is no. That's why we are hiring to get to a place where we can create a work-life balance for our employees.
And you know what? I'm glad I asked, because that is not what I was thinking at all. And it does show that because staffing levels are down, you're having to have a higher efficiency rate in order to achieve those goals that you're, so I understand that. Didn't know what that was based on, wanted to find out that. Next question, last question actually. What is a cycle time goal? Where are you trying to land? Because I'm looking at where we are now compared to where we've been, and it is so much better. So I just want to know where are you aiming?
So when I took this office, my goal was to get to 90 to 120 days. Now, it was a huge move from 511 days down to 90 to 120 days. I'm happy where we are. In fact, we are right within the range of 90 to 120 days with last month's number of 111 days. However, my team knows, and I push them really hard, that my goal is 90 days. So I want to come back to one of those updates next year and show you we can do 90 days.
Yeah, we're going to have a celebration when you reach your 90.
Absolutely.
Okay? Yeah. Okay, well, that's it for me. Thank you so much for all of the details. And, you know, really the part, this particular slide, as well as what Councilmember Winston was saying, that's important too. You guys have a comprehensive approach to procurement, and I appreciate that. And just thank you for being so intentional. Appreciate it.
Couple of points from me. I mean, I have to say, I mean, you and I feel like we've had a number of conversations, and you know, we knew from the council side when you were hired, and when we started this administration term, the first focus needed to be on process improvement. I'll be honest with you, I thought it was going to take probably 2 years to get there, and you've hit it within one, which is really remarkable. What's fun about that now is, well, two things are cool about it. Number one is you've already started seeing it in terms of both department users, your user agencies kind of coming to you. I see the numbers in terms of the procurements that are now, you know, the increase. You're also seeing it from, you've mentioned it from the industry side, the fact that you have folks interested in doing business with the city of Atlanta too. What I hadn't thought about until you mentioned it with the photos today is that you've created a culture where employees want to be there now too. So it's almost those three pieces have come together in a way to make this work. And that's probably what has helped you achieve what you've been able to achieve in the first year. The problem is you've been successful, and now we've got even higher goals for you. And I mean, and I'm not just talking about the cycle time, but you and I have talked about, okay, and then the next key lock to unlock is going to be around how do we, you know, what is the fine tuning we do around RFPs and scoping of projects. You mentioned earlier, the way you scope a project can either open the door further for bids, or it can kind of unfairly narrow it down to one user. And so I would say that let's lean into that these next 12 months, because I think if we figure out a way to, it's an art. So if you write it correctly, to Councilmember Winston's point, that appeal to bidders actually increases almost exponentially as well.
So, Mr. Vaughn, my goal is to get it done in 6 months, not 12 months. So we have already started working on it. So there are different ways we are looking at it. Now we are introducing negotiation as part of the RFP package. We are introducing demonstrations like product demos. We are also introducing discussions within the RFP process. We are also introducing tiered pricing structure or tiered discount pricing. So in other words, as we add volume to one contract, we should benefit from the reduced pricing by volume discounts. So we are adding all those. It's already in works. We are working with the law department on this, and hopefully by next update, we should be able to show you something. And then once we have something in place, in next 3 months, we'll start implementing it. So 12 months, I'm aggressive. In 6 months, we'll get it done.
I was going to say, if anybody can do it, it's you and your team, I'll be honest with you. I mean, and that's a perfect segue into the second thing that you and I have talked about. That would be a great focus for the next 12 months as well, is this notion of, I hate it when we see a contract that has been let for $100,000, and then all of a sudden we start loading it up with amendments and bells and whistles, so it becomes a $10 million contract. Because if we had gone out initially with a $10 million offering, we would have gotten better pricing, potentially more bidders as well. You're well on your way in terms of addressing that, but I would say, in my opinion, it's refining time now over the next 12 months. So I appreciate the work there. I know that Councilmember Shook wants the last comment on here, but I would say I think your crowning jewel highlight of this last page is the fact that you were able to get Shook to present you with a proclamation, because he hates doing that. It's very rare that he gets up there, but I know that to me is a testament.
That's why it's on the top left-hand corner.
So with that, I'll turn it over to Councilmember Shook.
So one of the things that strikes me about the job you have to do is that there are occasions where you're only allowed to be as good as a user agency allows you to be. It's not a one-man show. You're part of a relay team. You may be the fastest guy on your team, but if the person who holds you the baton or that you hand the baton to runs at only half that speed, then you don't get a medal. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on when this committee can expect to see fewer captions that include the word retroactive.
We are actually very closely monitoring retroactive contracts, retroactive pays, and so on. That's why if you take a look at the legislature, we only had 7 legislations last year with expired contracts, or we used retroactive to pay suppliers. You're absolutely right. Sometimes we move very fast. There are others who are not able to move faster with us. But I think when we work as one team, our goal is to have one approach and one outcome. So that's where we have built-in accountability factors. We have built-in RACI chart, responsibility, accountability, control, and informed charts where everyone signs and everyone's given a particular role and responsibility during a project. And we have implemented that, and that's actually helping us deliver projects on time. And if some of the user agencies are falling behind, we are actually inserting ourselves in their process to help them move quicker. For example, we have great partnership with DOT, ATL DOT. We're working very closely with watershed management, with DEEM, with airport. We're in constant meetings with, every week we're in meetings with all these top 4 or 5 user agencies that we support.
Well, I do worry about you a little bit in that you have an unusual passion and drive and vision, and sometimes you must look at some of these other user agencies and must despair.
Sometimes I wonder if I can be the commissioner for that user agency.
All right, well, that's a change in the personnel paper that we might be willing to take you up on, but thank you.
Any other questions for the CPO? If not, thank you again for the great presentation and the great work, and we look forward to the continued transformation of your department.
Great. Thank you for all your help and support, and thank you, team, for going through the transformation, going through all the changes, and delivering stellar results for fiscal year 23.
Okay, while they're leaving, I want to take a moment of personal privilege as well. Since it is Bring Your Intern to Work Day, I want to acknowledge that the intern that's been working in the Council District 6 office, Elias, is in the back. I think this is your last day with us. Yeah, I know. But I wanted to acknowledge him and thank him for all the hard work that he's provided for our district. Okay, so with that, I think all that stands between us and recess are the legislative items, so we're going to try and move through as quickly as we can. With that, Ms. Lindo, if you'll take us through the ordinances for first read, we'll go ahead and process that.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Item number 1 is 23-0-1369. This is an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee to ratify services rendered in connection with agreement number listed herein, Risk Management Information System with Organic Risk LLC, beginning June 23, 2023, and to authorize the mayor or his designee to execute the First Amendment to the agreement on behalf of the Department of Finance, retroactively effective from June 23, 2023, on a month-to-month basis for a period not to exceed 12 months in the amount not to exceed $212,795. All contracted work to be charged to and paid from the Fund Department organization and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes. Item number 2 is 2030-1370. This is an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to create and establish a new department organization for intergovernmental payments to the Georgia Superior Court Clerks Cooperative Authority, the Fulton County Clerk of Superior and Magistrate Courts, and the DeKalb County Clerk of Superior Court for the purpose of making payments for filing fees, subscription costs, and other associated with undertaking court filings and real estate searches, and transfer from and to appropriations an amount not to exceed $20,000 in fiscal year 2024 to authorize the Chief Financial Officer to make payments to the Georgia Superior Court Clerks Cooperative Authority escrow account, the Fulton County Clerk of Superior and Magistrate Courts, and the DeKalb County Clerk Superior Court for filing fees, subscription costs, and other costs associated with undertaking court filings and real estate searches, and for other purposes. Item number 3 is 2030-1371. This is an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a lease agreement with the Georgia Building Authority for 50 parking spaces in a certain parking garage located at 90 Central Avenue, Atlanta, Fulton County, Georgia, commencing retroactively on March 3rd, 2023, and expiring on June 30th, 2024, authorizing the base rent not to exceed $4,000.00 for the term of March 3rd, 2023 through June 30th, 2023, for the term of July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024. The base rent shall not exceed a base rent of $12,000 for the parking spaces, authorizing the expenditure to be charged to and paid as follows: $1,200 and $3,600 respectively from funding code listed herein, $2,800 and $8,400 respectively from funding code number listed herein, and waiving Article 10, Section 2-1546 of the Procurement Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, and for other purposes.
Thank you. With that, we will receive those and dispense with them during the next cycle. It takes us to ordinances for second read. First item up is 2030-1339, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee amending Resolution 20-R3230 to correct the name of the vendor for contract number listed to Prudential Retirement Insurance and Annuity Company, to recognize the change of control and name change of the vendor to Empower Annuity Insurance Company of America, or Empower, to authorize payments to Empower under the agreement, to ratify payments made and services received pursuant to the agreement on and from April 1st, 2022, to authorize the mayor or the chief financial officer or as his designee to sign any necessary documents, and for other purposes. Deputy Chief Financial Officer Carr.
Good afternoon, Yolanda Carr, Deputy CFO. This ordinance is related to our vendor for DC Defined Contribution Plan. So it does two things here. It changes the name. When we adopted the ordinance back last year or 2 years ago, it had the incorrect name. So now we're coming forward, making sure that we have the correct name. In addition to that, Prudential was inquired by Empower. So that was that question that you asked, Chairman Wan. So that's why we have the date of April 1st, 2022.
Questions for the department? There's a motion from Shook, seconded by Winston. If there's no questions, let's open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote's closed.
4 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. This item is approved. Next item, thank you. The next item is 2030-1347. There is a substitute for this. Don't believe it changes the caption, but I'll read it in. An ordinance by Councilmember Byron D. Amos as substituted by Finance Executive Committee, waiving Article 10, Division 4 of the Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances to authorize the mayor or his designee to execute contracts with sponsors, performers, artists, venues, and vendors necessary to effectuate the City of Atlanta's hosting of events celebrating hip-hop's 50th anniversary for the benefit of the public, and allowing the mayor's office to charge admission fees for select HH50 events, To authorize the City of Atlanta to accept donations for the purpose of supporting the city's actions related to hosting HH50 events through December 31, 2023. To authorize all costs to be paid from and all revenue and donations to be deposited into the Civic and Cultural Event Trust Fund account listed and for other purposes. I'll move to bring the substitute forward, seconded by Shook. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote's closed.
4 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. And for the public, the substitute authorizes a total of contracts, 170, donations, 300,000, and adds account details. Ms. Jackson, you have the floor. If you could tell us about the program and the paper, please.
Yes. Tanikia Jackson, Deputy Chief of Staff with the Mayor's Office. As the legislation mentioned, we are requesting authorization to execute contracts to accept donations and pay for costs associated with the Hip Hop 50 anniversary. The Mayor's Office established a working group to curate a series of programs and celebrate local artists and creatives. This programming will begin next month and end in November. The key signature event that is planned is a music concert that will wrap up the summer youth employment program season and reward the youth that have participated in that programming. Costs, the city is hosting the concert for free, and some of our out-of-cost or out-of-pocket expenses include staffing the venue as well as paying for the performers. Additional events will also include performances at the airport by local artists, movie showings, graffiti mural reveals, time capsule burial, and lectures and discussions that are hip-hop centered. We're excited about these events for the upcoming months in activating these programs, and I'll open this up to any questions that you may have.
All right, Councilmember Collier Overstreet.
Thank you. Yes, I just want to make sure that this particular legislation is actually saying that we're going to fund it and then we're going to get reimbursed by, as much as we can from the different, this is allowing us to receive those dollars.
Yes.
To kind of offset what we as a city.
Costs. Yes.
Okay. Yes. Well, that's perfect. So move approval.
All right, there's a motion from Collier Overstreet to approve, seconded by Shook. I have one question. So the 300,000 that the city is putting up is basically from the 400,000 that we transferred over previously, right?
Correct.
That is correct.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions? Seeing none, let's open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote's closed.
4 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. This item is approved on substitute. All right, colleagues, if there's no objections, I'm going to take items 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 as a block as they are all carry forward donations. First item is 23-01355, an ordinance by Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet, authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $1,000.00 from the District 11 carry forward account to Diamonds in the Rough Women's Outreach, Inc. to support its 2023 Back to School Festival and for other purposes. 23-01356 is an ordinance by Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet, authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $1,000.00 from the District 11 carry forward account to Nebar Temple 128 to support its 2023 Youth Fest school supply event and for other purposes. 23-01361, an ordinance by council members Westmoreland, Dozier, and Waits, authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $16,500.00 to lead to support their efforts to empower an at-risk generation to lead and transform their city of Atlanta by using the sport of baseball to teach Black boys how to overcome crime, poverty, and racism, and for other purposes. 23-01362, an ordinance by Councilmember Matt Westmoreland authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $10,000.00 from the Post 2 at-large carry-forward account to Sheltering Arms to support their early education efforts across Atlanta and for other purposes. 23-01363, an ordinance by Councilmember Matt Westmoreland authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $5,000.00 from the Post 2 at-large carry-forward account to the Upper West Side Improvement District to support West Side Stride and its focus on designing safe, people-oriented streets and for other purposes. And 23-01364, an ordinance by Councilmember Matt Westmoreland authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $2,500.00 from the Post 2 at-large carry-forward account to Trinity Community Ministries and for other purposes. I'll make a motion to approve all as a block, seconded by Shook. If we can open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote's closed.
4 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. Those items are approved. All right, next item, 23-01365, an ordinance by Councilmember Amir R. Faroki to amend Ordinance 17-01621, which authorized a donation to the True Colors Theater Company, or True Colors, in an amount not to exceed $1 million and 0 cents to be used only for the purpose of purchasing real estate to be developed into a theater building for the company as part of the True Colors capital campaign, to allow True Colors to utilize the donation to support ongoing and future theater operations and for other purposes. All right, colleagues, there were a number of questions that came up during briefing about this particular paper. I want to go through a couple of answers that we found. First one, DCFO Carr did confirm that the funds, there was a question about whether the funds were actually dispersed from the city in 2017 or 18. They were indeed dispersed. So True Colors has had the $1 million since 2018. It's my understanding that True Colors had this in a segregated account so that it had, because they have not, they did not end up building the theater building, but they have kept the fund separate. Are y'all with True Colors? Why don't you come up and to the podium, introduce yourselves, and then tell us about this paper, please.
Hi, my name is Chandra Stevens Albright.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
the managing
sorry.
director for True Colors Theater Company.
And good afternoon, Jamil Jude, Artistic Director of True Colors Theater Company.
So back in 2017 or so, Kenny Leon and Kasim Reed had talked about funding for the arts. It was at the same time that Woodruff Arts Center and the ballet were receiving money from the city. We were brand new. We had just started with True Colors, and so we inherited this, and we learned in September 2017 that the city was going to make these funds available. They did in about November 2018. We put them in the bank, and then we did a feasibility study at Grove Park. That's where we were going to look at the site. It turns out that site wasn't feasible. It's not big enough to have a theater and parking, and there was a lot of changes going on Donnelly Hollowell with setbacks and so forth, so we did not move forward with the project. So it's sitting in a highly liquid set of instruments at LPL, where we just leave it there. But with the pandemic, with increased cost of producing and reduced ticket sales, we really would like to access those funds for use as an operating reserve.
All right, questions or comments? So in briefing, we talked about this. Technically, True Colors, because of the designation in the original enabling legislation, it was specifically for capital and for building, cannot unilaterally make the decision to then reapply the funds without this legislation from us. So just understand that's why this paper is before us. But I think that's the policy conversation we need to have here, is whether we feel intent-wise it's appropriate to move this forward. I see her pressing the button. Councilmember Collier Overstreet, you have the floor.
Thank you for being here. So I do have a question, because I want to truly understand what you all need from us. That was the only spot that you all were interested, the only site you were interested in? Like, was it because, we probably, I don't know who was on council at the time, but I definitely was not. So I don't understand, was it for just that one spot? That's not clear in here. Or were you supposed to look for any other site?
This opportunity presented itself to True Colors. It's not something we had actively sought out. The Grove Park Foundation, I believe it was called at the time, had some land purchased on that corner of Donnelly Hollowell and I believe Elwood, that was purchased by the Candida Foundation. And they were very interested in having some kind of arts building there. So they're like, oh, True Colors would be perfect. And so you guys should look at this, and we really want you to build a theater here, and the land's already there. So can you do it? And so I think all that got conflated in the conversation when all this funding conversation came up, and it came out in this legislation to buy land to build a building, but the land had been bought. So then we said, well, can we build a building on this site? Is it possible if the land is already there? And we engaged a consultant to come in and do a full assessment, and it just turned out it wasn't feasible to do so.
Okay, and so True Colors no longer wants to have their own building anywhere? Or you already have it? I don't know anything, so that's why I'm asking.
No worries. Yeah, I just think the changing landscape of the arts has really impacted our ability and even the feasibility. Once we looked into the feasibility study in that specific parcel, we both went back to the board with a recommendation that this was pre-pandemic, but theaters our size were closing because of the brick and mortar establishments that they were trying to operate. In order for us to successfully operate, part of that feasibility study was a ramp up in our staffing capacity, which would have to also increase the amount of money that we raised. We already taxed to raise the amount of money for our operating procedure, so the additional staff, in addition to how we would have to manage that space, it felt like we may be heading down a long list of theaters that don't make it past 20 years once they open up their own brick and mortar establishments. We have found that partnerships, really mutually beneficial partnerships with established organizations are the best bet for the future viability of True Colors. So having our own building isn't in scope during our current strategic planning.
Okay, so I live in Southwest Atlanta, and I know the Southwest Art Center is extremely popular. So I don't know, but I do know that, like, as a city, we just purchased the West Side Art Center. That was my legislation, and so I'm just, I want you all to have a home, but I don't want to hamper your vision in any way. So that's why I'm asking, that's why I had those questions. I mean, do you need my help with anything like that, or?
We are always looking for places to do productions. We have a show-by-show arrangement at Southwest Art Center that we've had for some time. We go show to show to show.
Yeah.
But we do a lot of other work besides our productions. We have things called True Talks. We have community events. We just did something with the City of Parks and Recreation. We commissioned a poem for Maddie Freeland Park. So anything that gives us a chance to get out in the community beyond what we do on stage, because that's only 7,000 people we can hit per time, but when we're out in the city, we can hit many more. We're at MARTA, we're doing things there. So yes, we would love your help in finding us more places to get our work in front of people.
Okay, so your ask is for us to take away the stipulation of having a storefront, a brick and mortar. Okay. So I won't be selfish, because I want y'all to have a storefront. I would love to see another art center, but I do understand that that's just me. I would welcome other conversation to see how you all feel about it. I just want to support True Colors.
We appreciate
any
that.
way you need.
The theater that we were looking at building was going to cost $15 million pre-pandemic, and it was going to require $4 million in endowment just to run it. And so what Jamil was talking about was we produce theater. We don't manage facilities. We don't do HVAC. We don't have utility bills other than what we pay our landlord. And so we prefer to try to invest as much as we are able to in the art. And this would allow us to do that. And it would also allow us to have a small operating reserve, which is the only thing keeping most of our colleagues alive right now, is that they have funds in reserve to help cover gaps that were created by the pandemic.
Got it. So in helping True Colors, first of all, I love your outreach, what you just spoke about. Would you still be open to talking with the City of Atlanta about using the West End Arts Center to make it, with programming and everything? Is that something that you would be interested in?
We're talking to Grove Park,
I think we can do both.
Yeah.
I think we can figure it all out, actually.
Yeah, actually, I think part of our strategy moving forward are how can we find flexible producing options that allow us to present work that speaks to the city, that may not also keep us locked into specific production models that force us to have 400 available seats per show. Every show that we want to do, every conversation we want to start doesn't necessarily require 400 people plus. So any option that allows us to be flexible and to still tell the Black stories that we're looking to tell, we're open to.
So this plan for, according to this legislation, it would actually help you with operations. Is there a business model that would make it so that you guys don't run out of funding and then need more, and you know what I mean? Like, I want to know what the sustainability is. How would this help you?
We have an investment policy and an operating reserve policy. So what the plan is, if we were able to access these funds, a piece of it would go into an investment pool. Right now, it's like cash. It's basically cash. It's in very liquid terms, but there would be a piece we wouldn't touch, and we'd be able to derive a return on that and use those returns to help fund the business. And then the rest of it would be an operating reserve. So to the extent that we run short, we would use that operating reserve on them. That would stay liquid. So the intent is to segregate those funds into two different pieces. Right now, they're just in one big liquid pool.
Whose paper is this? Let's see.
Faroki. It's Faroki's.
Do you guys have any?
I have some
thoughts?
questions, yeah. I was.
Okay.
You want-
So, I mean, sure.
Okay.
I want to help.
Yep. All right, so Winston, Shook, and then I've got some questions as well.
Thank you, Chair One. So my question is around, I mean, I totally understand, you know, with the current state of interest rates, that it probably doesn't make financial sense to look into purchasing commercial real estate in our current market right now. In more plainer terms, could you talk about what this means about the long-term vitality of your business and what this $1 million of cash will do for you?
Yeah, absolutely. There was just an article that was in the Los Angeles Times about Center Theater Group, one of the largest theaters in the nation, that have had to suspend their operations. And that story is being felt all across the country, even here in Atlanta. Most recently, we had the Lyric Theater, which was a longtime producing theater here in our corridor, shut down and suspend their operations. Black theaters have historically been marginalized and have had a lot of difficulty raising funds. And I can enumerate that, but I imagine that we can just use our imagination here on the reasons why. True Colors, again, making 20 years, has made us one of the longest running Black specific theaters here in Atlanta, focusing in a Black city. We're really excited and proud of that. I think what we have done, and especially along with our board, has identified a strategic plan that allows True Colors to maintain our high standard of excellence. Because of our namesake, Kenny Leon, Tony Award winning and multiple Tony nominations, we have a high bar of excellence, and I think we continue to deliver on that. But with the rising cost of goods and an ability to want to pay our artists at a level that allows them to be working artists, we just have to find a model, and we are continuing to find a model that allows us to do just that. We're really proud of the work our board and committee has done to establish these protocols so that when if the funds are released, that we know that the organization can sustain itself both off of the yield on the investments, but also with a strong cash management protocol that we put in place.
And I know my colleague is pushing hard to find a permanent home in Southwest Atlanta, but but I do like the fact that this maybe provides flexibility to see your outfit throughout the city of Atlanta, including Southeast Atlanta, where I would love to see this be able to help you be able to expand your outreach, which I think in long term will help you be able to reach a more broad audience. So I do yield, Mr. Chair.
All right, Councilmember Shook.
The only hesitancy I have is not named at True Colors. It's the bigger policy issue. And what I'm trying to think through unsuccessfully is, I mean, will this set a precedent? Yes, it will. Should we therefore logically expect others to come in and ask for the same flexibility? Yes. What I can't think through is what the downside would be. I won't know that until I run into it, I guess. But if the premise is, you know, the city's going to support the arts, and if the difference, if in this case this money is the difference between sustainability or not, maybe it's a difference without a distinction as to whether it can be used for A or B. But that's where I am at 3:04 this afternoon on it.
I do, and I apologize. I know that you reached out to me to try and set up a meeting in advance of this, but I have not had any bandwidth to do it. Have y'all talked to Camille Love's office? I guess the reason being is that what this would effectively do too is bypass the process where we provided some funding to her earlier this year for distribution to the arts community. And so there's a vetting process and an evaluation application process that this would completely bypass. simply because it has the virtue of being previous money that we've awarded for a capital project. So I guess that's one question that goes up in my head a little bit, that maybe we need to hear from her office and make sure that they're comfortable with our, okay.
Good afternoon, Chair and Council members. Monica Perlthrow, Deputy Director, Mayor's Office of Cultural Affairs. You're right, we do have a grant program that is legislated. The max an organization can request is $50,000 per fiscal year. And so requests like these are not, they're limited in terms of the requests that this organization is making. Our process is yearly. If it sidesteps that process, it depends on what the funding is. What the funding that we give is for operating and project support.
Yeah, that's where I get nervous too, is the talk about an operating reserve. I mean, that's a luxury that it's nice to have, but as I think about some of the other arts organizations that are, as you mentioned, barely making it year to year, that makes me a little nervous to then not only bypass your process, but also fund that. So that's one flag that goes up. It sounds like y'all are still kind of chewing through this right now as well, and not.
We are, and we recognize the need is great, as these representatives have communicated across the board in theater, dance, visual arts, film. And so I'm not sure what the answer is. It is a double-edged sword because that opens up for requests of multiple requests. We intend to continue with our process, and we're grateful for council administration for the funds that you allocate to the Office of Cultural Affairs for the purpose of re-granting. But, the need is great.
All right, this is helpful context. The other question I have is for the organization. What is your annual operating budget? So that gives us an idea of what this $1 million is vis-a-vis that.
Our annual operating budget fluctuates between $1.5 and $1.8 million, and that includes production and administration.
Okay, and then I don't want to get too much into your proprietary financial information, but that also is an interesting barometer vis-a-vis this $1 million versus a $1.8 million annual operating budget. That raises a couple of other just flags in my head as well. I wonder if we need a little bit more time to work through this because of those concerns and the precedent it does set. It sounds like, at least, and I looked at your website, y'all are now kind of in between production years, or you'll be rounding out. So we have a little bit of time.
Not really.
Yeah, I'm sure you're going to start working on next year.
Yeah, our next show is in September, and that's going to start rehearsals in August, and we have to start building sets. And so I would just ask a question. When the funds were originally allocated or given out, there were 3 organizations, the Atlanta Ballet, Woodruff Arts Center, and us, and I believe those 2 had capital campaigns, and we were assumed to have one. So is that the same source of funds, or?
That's a Department of Finance question, and I can tell you that it was 17/0/1621 was the enabling legislation for your paper, and it looks like it just came out of the mayor's office. Oh, no, sorry. It came out of reserve conversion. So in terms of source of funds, I don't know that necessarily.
I just didn't think we were competing with other funds that might be, I don't know where the funds come from for.
Right, and that's an annual allocation, but it's for a specific, again, if we're trying to look at this repurposing to basically fund some of your operations, well, then it runs into that friction that we already have another program that has a process that we would be bypassing. So that's where we were having that conversation. And then the other piece about funding operating reserve, because that's something we typically wouldn't do as well with a nonprofit. All that said, though, I mean, what you have working for you is the fact that these funds are previous year funds. So it's not like it impacts what we're doing this fiscal year. So at least we don't have that dynamic working against us. But I just do wonder if we need a little bit more time to figure out how we thread this needle that doesn't create a sticky situation for us going forward, given the number of organizations out there, arts or non-arts, that are worthy mission-wise, operation-wise, and need the city's support. So I don't know if, yes, I'll CFO Ballin, and then I'll give it back to Councilmember Collier Overstreet, and then we'll see where we go from there.
Yeah, I did just want to point out that the funds have already been fully expensed from the city's accounts, and we've already taken the financial implications of that in FY17. So those funds have been gone and dispersed and are with the entity. They were designated for a specific purpose. Thank you to the entity for actually upholding to that standard and being good stewards of the original agreement. That usually doesn't necessarily happen. Once it leaves our purview and oversight, we do have very little kind of visibility onto what happens to those fundings. So I do commend the organization for sticking to original intent of the investment. I don't necessarily see what the next process would be, if there's more conversation that is needed, it would be just to still stay with the organization until a decision is ultimately made. I think what the question here and the intent here is to come back to the city and having conversation on the original intent of the legislative process. Now, I think it's a policy decision that will be had, but the additional question I had was, I guess, more around community benefit aspect that is intended originally from here was a public good and a public asset that would be there. So maybe talking more about what the deviation from that what the benefit to the public would be going forward.
Yeah, I think True Colors' mission is our vision is to thrive at the intersection of artistic excellence and civic engagement. And I think through our work, we have tried to find ways to inspire service through arts. We are really thankful for a production that we just closed, which was a version of The Wiz. It was so Atlanta-specific that we dubbed it the Lemon Pepper Wiz because of how much of a celebration of the city of Atlanta that it was. And not only were we able to put on a high-quality production that featured so much a multi-generational outpour of talent featuring local Atlanta artists like Q Parker, but also our young generation of artists. One person I want to mention is Taloria Merricks, a young student from high school, who went to high school here in Atlanta and started in our education program. They were a winner of our high school monologue competition. They've gone on to be featured in so many different things, but this was her first experience as a lead artist and has already received from some of the national artists that came through invitations to start touring. Now Taloria has been put on the national radar, and I think that's the type of things that True Color has done. Through our work, we also did productions of The Wiz. It's our 20th anniversary where we're kind of reclaiming the True Colors narrative. We've had Tony Award winners start their careers at True Colors. Jokina Calacango most recently won the Tony last year for Best Featured Performer in a Musical. Chloe and Halle Bailey were in our 2006 productions of The Wiz. So the work that happens at True Colors goes on and affects internationally, and we want to be able to continue to do that type of high excellent work. Again, I want to talk about the work that we've done in the community. You mentioned Maddie Freeland Park. We've been commissioned to take artists here in the city, create pieces that then go on to serve the community as being a voice for the community. So it's not just highfalutin arts, it's also a deep desire to serve civically as well.
Okay, so I will say this. I do believe that you all, this is, I'm fine with it at this point. We are talking about 2017 and here we are in 2023. I do believe that in earnest, you tried to stay with the scope of the original legislation. And I am I'm willing to support this. I don't mind. I would love for you all to take what CFO said, as well as continue doing what you're doing. The community aspect is extremely important. I love the work that you do, and I do believe that you'll be great stewards with this money that these funds that you've had sitting here for 6 years now, waiting to either find a site or put it to good use so that you can continue to serve the public. So for that reason, I will move approval. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Does Deputy Deputy Chief of Staff Theo Pace, you have something you want to say?
Hang on a second, let me do this. Let me let Councilmember Winston speak first, and then I'll recognize Deputy Chief of Staff.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to go back. I think this conversation is about, money that's already been allocated as far as the city of Atlanta is concerned. And so I don't think it's incumbent upon us to force them to use this money for real estate when the real estate market has changed from 6 years ago. Business models change, and it seems like your business model has changed, and it's not, that's not a decision to us to make you buy real estate. And I think if we look at companies, there are companies that are out there now that operate without owning real estate or assets. If you look at Uber doesn't own cars. If you look at Airbnb doesn't own property. And so business models change, and I think that you have shown to be good stewards of the money, the fact that you still have it in a bank account 6 years later. And I think that, we should be allowing you the adaptability to be able to use that for long-term viability versus forcing you into a horrible commercial real estate market. So I'll second.
All right, there's a motion that's been properly seconded. Mr. Pace, did you want to speak to this? You're here. You're here.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of council. Theo Pace, Deputy Chief of Staff, Office of the Mayor. And I was in a meeting, so I stepped out. I didn't hear much of the conversation, but just wanted to reiterate that True Colors, which has been a great artistic partner here in the city of Atlanta, reached out to the administration about reallocation of this funding. And I've been in talks with Chief of Staff Odie Donald, which I believe he reached out to Council President Doug Shipman as well as Councilmember Faroki. And so the administration is in support of this reallocation.
Yeah, so I don't know if you caught, the concerns that I raised were around the fact that essentially repurposing this, and let's take True Colors out of it, because I think they're a fantastic artistic organization that does great, important work, but let's just take that piece out of it. But repurposing these funds essentially will bypass a process that we've already set up for the Office of Cultural Affairs to receive applications and make grants to the arts community, right? And that's one that we fund modestly, but we do fund. So there's concern that I have around that. And then the other piece that I mentioned, I brought up too, aside from the precedent that this sets, that after a couple years, if you didn't use your money for what we originally intended, come back and let's see if we were willing to flip it to something else. And at what point, what are gonna be the valuation criteria for that at that point? But then the final piece I have is that, $1 million is not a small chunk of change. And I would imagine, given what True Colors, now I am going to pull them back in, but an organization whose annual operating budget 6 years later is $1.8 million. This is $1 million. It's a lot. The $1 million we gave to the ballet and the $1 million we gave to Woodruff Art Center, compared to what their annual budgets are, it's a different proposition, right? And so, the notion of we're almost going to be underwriting an entire year, half a year for them, or we're funding an operating reserve, which they did say they wanted to do, is kind of dangerous for us to go that space to go into. Because if someone else came to us and said, we'd like the city to fund an operating reserve for us as well, how do we then say, well, y'all are different, this is different because of X, Y, and Z. So these are all dynamics that are swirling around this, and quite frankly, I may end up making a substitute motion to hold this just to give us a little more time to work through that, because I think we need to make sure we have the right responses and the right program and the right answers that if, when other organizations, and there are plenty of them out there, come to us, that we're prepared, that we have a legitimate response for each one of them. I agree. It's actually quite shocking to me that they've held on to this $1 million in a separate account for 7 years or 6 years.
I think that shows good stewardship.
Amazing. No, I'm serious, and that's why I'm really open, and I want to find a path, because they've shown that they are worthy of this consideration. So I'm sorry. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Councilmember.
All right, Councilmember Collier Overstreet.
Okay, so a couple things. I do feel that if a company came to us from legislation from 2017 with this same situation, I would feel the same way. I do feel that, honestly. And, the fact that it is True Colors made it a little easier. But, the money is not about FY24, 23. It's about FY17. So that gives me, a little confidence in my decision. Also, I think that a grant program is totally different from, they've got their own pot of money. So it's not up to me to decide if that was the right thing to do at that time, give $1 million to them and give $1 million to this group, the ballet, and give $1 million to the Woodruff. It was done. So it's not like it's a grant process. It was given. So we're just now changing how they're using it because it was already given. So it's not like we're saying we're usurping a process, because it's not. It was given. Whether it was given properly or not, I don't know, but it's there and it's theirs. So I would like for them to be able to actually use it. So that's my decision.
I agree.
Okay. Any other discussion on this? I mean, there is a motion from Collier Overstreet that's been properly seconded by Winston. There's no further discussion. Let's open the vote on that motion.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
All right, 2 yeas, 1 nay, 1 abstention. I need the parliamentarian here. What happens here? It passes. Okay, all right. So the motion is approved. It will go forward. It just won't be on consent when it comes to August 7th.
And open to having any further discussion between now and the August 7th council meeting.
Thank you. Mr. Shook.
Yeah, for the record, my nay was aimed at hopefully creating an opportunity to hold this for more discussion. There's a lot of hesitancy up here, even I sense from even people who are willing to say yes. I think we all hope that there's maybe some time and space for a better outcome, but that my no was in no way a reflection of how I feel about True Colors.
So yeah, if we can, let's get together between now and August 7th, and if there are additional bumper guards we'll do around this, that would help. We might think about doing that. Yeah, Ms. Collier Overstreet.
I'm sorry, one more thing. So, just, in layman's terms, sometimes people don't understand what, yays, nays, and abstentions mean. It means that it is approved to go to full council and out of this committee. The fact that there is an abstention and a no means that it won't be on consent, and we'll take it up during full council. But it passes favorably out of committee.
Yeah, it moves forward with a positive recommendation from committee. Yep. All right, other comments on this? Okay, let's keep moving. Next item is item number 13, 23-0-1367. There is a substitute for this that does not change the caption. It's an ordinance by Councilmember Alex Mwan, as substituted by Finance Executive Committee, authorizing the transfer of funds from various Atlanta City Council carry-forward accounts to the appropriate distribution account to replenish funds for fiscal year 2024 and for other purposes. I'll make the motion to bring the substitute forward. Seconded by Shook. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote's closed.
4 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. The substitute is before us. I know that Ms. Kempson Wright isn't here. This is simply what was in the carry forward, the distribution account. I mean, this can't be what was left in the, that's not
No,
what carried
this is, yeah,
forward.
she clarifies, it's not a true-up. She's
Got it.
replenishing your,
She's just moving what was the balance in that one particular account forward, but not all of the carry forward. Okay, I'll make the motion to approve on substitute, seconded by Shook. If there's no further discussion on that, let's open that vote, please.
the vote is open. The vote's closed.
4 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. The item is approved on substitute. All right, number 14 is long caption, 23-01368, an ordinance by Councilmember Alex Juan supplementing that certain 30-second supplemental bond ordinance adopted by the Atlanta City Council on June 30th, 2023, and approved by the mayor on June 29, 2023, to, among other things, set forth the terms of the City of Atlanta 1 Airport General Revenue Bonds, Series 2023B, non-AMT, the Series 2023B bonds. 2, the Airport General Revenue Bond, Series 2023C, AMT, the Series 2023C bonds. 3, Airport Passenger Facility Charge and Subordinate Lien General Revenue Bonds, Series 2023D, non-AMT, Series 2023D bonds. 4, Airport Passenger Facility Charge and Subordinate Lien General Revenue Bonds, Series 2023E, AMT, the Series 2023E bonds. 5, Airport General Revenue Refunding Bond, Series 2023F, non-AMT, the Series 2023F bonds. 6, Airport General Revenue Refunding Bond, Series 2023G, AMT, the Series 2023G bonds, and together with the Series 2023 bonds, the Series 2023C, 23D, and 2023E, and 2023F bonds, the Series 2023 bonds, within certain parameters previously established by the city, including the original aggregate principal amount, interest rates, maturity amounts, maturity dates, redemption provisions, and debt service reserve requirement with respect thereto, affirm satisfaction of the additional bonds test with respect to the Series 2023 bonds, ratify certain prior actions of the City Council and certain officers and agents of the city with respect to the issuance and sale of the Series 2023 bonds, ratify and approve the execution and delivery of a bond purchase agreement, ratify and approve the preparation, use, and distribution of a preliminary official statement and the execution and delivery of a final official statement in connection with the offer and sale of the Series 2023 bonds, provide an effective date and for other related purposes. CFO Bala.
Yeah, Mohammed Bala, CFO. So this is the pricing ordinance for the aviation bonds that were approved by council earlier. On August 15th, we will be pricing these bonds, and this pricing ordinance will be taken on a special call meeting on August 16th. So the recommendation is to move this and will be substituted after pricing on a special call meeting. Again, for the general public, we will be issuing about $750 million worth of bonds to support projects at the airport, which include the concourse, the widening, a new parking facility, and some other projects to further the ATL Next campaign, as well as refunding some prior bonds as part of one holistic transaction. And we look forward to having a detailed discussion and a successful pricing in August.
All right, questions for the CFO? If there's none, I'll make the motion to approve, seconded by Shook. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
4 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. This item is approved, and we'll move forward. All right, that now takes us into resolutions. The first one is 23R3810. It's a resolution by Councilmember Andrea L. Boone authorizing the mayor to apply for and accept a Victims of Crime Act assistance grant from the Georgia Criminal Justice Coordinating Council in an amount not to exceed $300,000.00 to provide training for individuals who work with victims, to develop projects to enhance victims' rights and services, and to undertake public education and awareness activities on behalf of crime victims and for other purposes. All right, there's a motion from Shook to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Collier Overstreet. Any discussion on this? All right, if not, let's open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
4 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. The item is approved. 23-R3811, and without objection, I'm going to take items 16 and 26 together. Resolution by Councilmember Andrea L. Boone supplementing a joint task order fund in an amount not to exceed $7,500,000 $75,000.00 for use under 3 miscellaneous repairs and construction services contracts for project number listed under $250,000K for ADA and other improvements, as contract numbers 1 listed Kittsburg Parker Fry JV, 2 number listed Leidy Commercial and Construction Inc., and 3 contract number listed SoCo Contracting Company Inc., in order to provide for ADA and other improvements on behalf of the Department of Parks and Recreation on a task order basis. All services will be charged to and paid from funding number listed herein and for other purposes. And item number 26 is 23R3840, a resolution by Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet supplementing a joint task order fund in an amount not to exceed $19,150,000.00 for use under 2 managing general contractor contracts for project number listed, managing general contractor services as contract numbers 1, A, Kittsburg Parker Fry, a joint venture, and 2, B, Leidy SoCo, a joint venture, and for other purposes. Mr. Voss.
Thank you, Councilmember Juan and members of council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to these together, even though they're separated in the agenda. These 2 pieces of legislation supplement existing contracts, the task order funds for each. One is the repair and maintenance under 250 contract for ADA improvements, and the other one is a managing general contractor contract. About $7 million, a little over $7 million would go to the ADA contract and $19 million to the MGC, the managing general contractor contract. This phase of projects includes several citywide projects, including the repairs and maintenance to maintenance compounds, which is desperately needed, citywide pools, as well as ADA improvements. In total, the department has been given about 55 projects to manage under the MAF, and this funding is, in most part, is increasing it for MAF funding. We have started our first phase of implementation in December, and of that phase, we've completed about 75% of either in progress or encumbered projects. So we want to keep that phasing moving, and after 6 months, this is the next phase of projects we'd like to get started. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have on this.
Any questions? Motion from Shook, second from Winston. Let's open that vote, please, on both items.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
4 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. Both items are approved. Next item, 23R3816. There is a substitute that changes the caption and by adding the dollar amount as well as the list of recipients. It's a resolution by Councilmember Alex Juan, as substituted by Finance Executive Committee, authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to refund customers for overpayments to water and sewer accounts in an amount of $44,836.20. All funds to be charged to and paid from fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed and for other purposes. I'll move to bring the substitute forward, seconded by Shook. Let's open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
4 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. The substitute is before us. Move to approve on substitute, seconded by Shook. Any questions? Seeing none, let's open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
4 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. The item is approved on substitute. Colleagues, without objection, I'm going to take 18, 19, 20, and 21 together. They're all account correction papers. First one is 23R3822, resolution by Finance Executive Committee to amend Resolution 23R3084, adopted by the Atlanta City Council on February 6, 2023, and approved by City Charter Section 2403 on February 15, 2023, by updating the fund, department, organization, account, and function activity numbers for the Department of Atlanta Information Management and for other purposes. 23R3823, a resolution by Finance Executive Committee to amend Resolution 23R3301, adopted by the Atlanta City Council on March 20, 2023, and approved by City Charter Section 2403 on March 29, 2023, by updating the fund, department, organization, account, and function activity numbers for Atlanta Information Management and for other purposes. 23R3824, a resolution by Finance Executive Committee to amend Resolution 23R3391, adopted by the Atlanta City Council on April 17, 2023, and approved per City Charter Section 2403 on April 26, 2023, by updating the fund, department, organization, account, and function activity numbers for Atlanta Information Management and for other purposes. And 23R3825, a resolution by Finance Executive Committee to amend Resolution 21R3825, adopted by the Atlanta City Council on September 7, 2021, and approved per City Charter Section 2403 on September 15, 2021, by updating the department organization numbers for Atlanta Information Management, General Fund, Department of Public Works, Solid Waste and Motor Fleet, and for other purposes. Ms. Wood.
Good afternoon, Lorette Woods, Chief Administrative Officer, Department of Atlanta Information Management. The resolutions you have before you are simply to change the department org. The Department of AIM is reducing our department orgs from 18 active department orgs to 7. We are going to deactivate 11 of those so that our financial structure more closely aligns with our operational structure. We have 4 open contracts which currently are aligned with these deactivated department orgs, so the request is to move them to one of those that will remain active.
Questions? Motion from Shook, seconded by Winston. Let's open the vote, please, on those items.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
4 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. Those 4 papers are approved. Next item is 23R3826, a resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to exercise the first renewal option for contract number listed, ATL Cloud Implementation and Post-Implementation Support Services with Deloitte Consulting LLP on behalf of the Department of Finance for a term of 1 year effective from September 7, 2023 through September 6, 2024, in an amount not to exceed $5,986,500.00. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes. Ms. Carr.
Good afternoon, Yolanda Carr, Deputy CFO. This resolution is for Deloitte. We utilize Deloitte for Oracle Cloud, and so we're asking for permission to exercise renewal option number 1.
Motion from Shook, seconded by Winston. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote's closed.
4 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. Item is approved.
Thank you.
Next item, 23R3827, a resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute special procurement agreement number listed, Cheshire Bridge Road and Lennox Road pedestrian hybrid circulation with Matthews Contracting Company, Inc., on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation pursuant to Section 21191.1 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances for the purpose of providing pedestrian hybrid beacons and pavement markings, signs, ADA ramps, utility adjustments, and fiber connection for a term of 1 year with 0 renewal options in an amount not to exceed $277,796.63. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes. The administration has asked us to hold this, so I'll make that motion. Seconded by Shook. Let's open that vote, please.
Yeah.
No, I came up a little bit early. I guess I got a little eager.
I think we're holding 23R3827. And he's not up there to talk to 27. He's for the next one. Don't pay him any, don't look behind.
Thank you. That's why when you try to multitask. Yeah.
Yeah, you know when we're trying to get to recess when they're moving up here. It's good. All right, so that item, the vote did carry 4-0. That item will be held. All right, 23R3828, resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute special procurement agreement number listed, garbage trucks maintenance and repair utilizing Truck Service Depot LLC, Nextran Corporation, and Sansom Equipment Company, Inc. on behalf of the Department of Public Works, pursuant to Section 21191.1 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, for a term of 2 years with one-year renewal option to be exercised at the sole discretion of the city in an amount not to exceed $1 million and 0 cents. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, account numbers listed herein and for other purposes. Commissioner Wiggins, you have.
Good afternoon, Chairman Wan and committee members. I am actually here to speak on this item. So this resolution comes by way of special procurement, just simply to add 3 more service providers to our existing network while we work through updating our fleet to reduce the maintenance frequencies and while we work with the Department of Human Resources to increase our staffing. So adding these additional vendors will help us to reduce the downtime for the maintenance of our garbage trucks.
Any questions? Motion from Shook, seconded by Winston. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote's closed.
4 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. Item is approved. Thank you. Next item, 23R3829, a resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into contract number listed MLK Drive and ABI Bridge abutment installation with Maria Artemis, doing business as Artemis Studios LLC, pursuant to Section 21191.1 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances for a signature metal and light sculpture public artwork under the Atlanta Beltline Bridge at Martin Luther King Jr. Drive in an amount not to exceed $270,000.00 to be charged to and paid from fund department organization and accounts listed herein and for other purposes. Ms. Sorgan Fry.
Sorgan Fry.
Sorgan Fry, I had it right the first time. You have the floor.
This resolution will allow the city to enter an agreement with Maria Artemis to commission an artwork along MLK Drive. And it's going to be continuing the legacy of human and civil rights. That's what the imagery will be of the artwork. So I'm here if you have any questions.
There's a motion from Shook to approve. I'll second it. I do have the funding stream for this. It just says infrastructure bond. Is this from the previous one or the new one?
This is the previous one.
The 2015 issuance? Okay.
This is our final project. We had a previous project that was canceled due to the pandemic. So this is our last one.
Okay, very good. All right, if there's no further questions, let's open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote's closed.
4 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. Item is approved. Thank you. Next item, 23R3840, a resolution by Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet.
With Mr. Voss.
Yeah, that's which one I'm reading, yeah. Oh, we already did it.
Yes,
I
with
gotcha.
Mr. Voss, yes.
Okay, all right. Dual referred. We did have one come out of public safety. It's item number 30, 22R4184, a resolution by Councilmember Antonio Lewis urging the Georgia General Assembly to review and amend its statutes, Title 17, Chapter 7 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated, to specifically limit using rap lyrics as evidence in criminal trials and for other purposes. Colleagues, I'm going to make a motion to hold this to give us some time to consult with the Office of Intergovernmental Affairs here before moving forward. Just given it came out kind of quickly and unexpectedly out of that previous committee. Is there a second? Seconded by Shook. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, let's open the vote to hold, please.
The vote is open. The vote's closed.
4 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. This item will be held. All right, Ms. Lindo, I don't believe we have anything else.
Oh, sorry. That's all, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All right, that concludes our legislative items. I did want to just remind everybody that we will be on recess as soon as this meeting adjourns. And we will reconvene on Monday, August 7th with the full council meeting. Any other comments for the good of the order? Seeing none, we stand adjourned. Thank you.